Welcome to Nugg Talk.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Nugg Talk, a weekly, just a podcast where we talk about the Nuggets.
No longer weekly, unfortunately.
But we just talk about the Nuggets. Our season has sadly come to an end.
It was a good run.
It was a good run. I enjoyed the season a lot. It was great playoffs. But we just had to deal with the two best players on a team right now.
Yep.
And deal with the refs. Even though I don't really blame the refs that much. But
I mean, I think the refs were pretty atrocious, but even if the refs were good, we probably would have lost in 5.
The thing is, the refs are always bad against the Nuggets. It's not like a new thing where they were just bad in this series against the Lakers. And against the Clippers, they were bad against us, against the Jazz. We never got free throws in the bubble. So
it's true.
But that's an issue for another time. Either way, we will talk about the series a little bit, talk about our feelings about it and everything there, and then kind of get into our finals predictions and then go into a season in review. So just go overall what your thoughts were about the 5-game series. Obviously, Game 2 was close and tragically lost that one. Game 3 we won. Go into it a little bit, how you felt.
I just think we played the better team, to be honest. I think we actually played pretty well. Jokic played well. Jamal played very well. I even like how MPJ played, to be honest. So it's just tough. They're the best team. They're going to win the finals. We're going to talk about that later, but I think anyone who's listening to this knows that. So I can't be too upset or critical. I think they played pretty decently and they competed in every game. So
yeah, I mean, I was already super excited because they already surpassed my expectations. Like we talked about in the last one, we just wanted them to compete against the Clippers. They beat the Clippers, so to even get to the Lakers and play them in the Western Conference Finals was already amazing. Like you said, I think except for Game 1, but in Game 1 usually, except for the Utah series, we always got blown out just because we were tired and a mixture of learning the new team. And just new schemes that you're going to have to play, the new players, new ways to attack. Game 1's always a bad feel-out game for us, especially if you're coming off a 3-1 series win. But Game 2, in my opinion, is when we really lost it, and I think that's when I knew it was over because we were down 10 the whole time, and then the fourth quarter they started pulling that Nugget magic that we were so accustomed to in this bubble, and then it's a back and forth between Jokic and AD. Jokic gets the go-ahead, we think. Mm-hmm. All you have to do is just not let them hit a 3.
Yep. And
Plumlee just fucks up his rotation because he thinks Jeremy's going to switch on to AD, but why would Jeremy switch off of LeBron? Because he's not going to.
Exactly.
And then AD gets that open shot, he wins. And that's when I knew I was like, okay, it's like even though we won the next one,
that was a heartbreaker.
Yeah, it's a heartbreaker. It's pretty deflating, and it's a huge motivation boost for them knowing that they didn't blow that.
Yeah.
Because that would have probably put them on their heels, especially if we ended up winning Game 3-2 and we were up 2-1. Completely different series. But that was a huge momentum shift of the game. That's when I knew it was over. And then going forward, we just tired out. I think that was the biggest issue.
They ran out of gas, especially in Game 5. They were out of gas.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest issue. You could just tell that we were tired and the Lakers were well rested because they won in 5 games each time, and we had to keep going to 7 and coming back to go to 7.
The Nuggets played, I think, 6 games more than the Lakers in the playoffs before.
And Jamal was averaging the most minutes in the playoffs. Jokic wasn't too far off from being in, I think he was still in the top 5, but he wasn't far off from being top 3. LeBron was averaging the lowest minutes he's ever averaged in the playoffs. They were very well rested. Our guys were exhausted. I felt terrible for Jamal in Game 5. He looked like he was in a lot of pain with his bruise on the foot and his multiple leg issues. He gave it his all, and I love him for that.
Me too.
But yeah, it wasn't meant to be, unfortunately. But overall, I think we both love this team, love what they did.
This was my favorite Nuggets team to watch ever. I loved it,
and we see a bright future coming, so that's good. Now we'll talk about the finals going on right now. The Lakers demolished the Heat in Game 1. We both have already said before we thought the Lakers were the best team in the league. Mm-hmm. We thought they were going to win the series. How many games are you giving them now?
The Heat?
They're
getting swept.
Okay. because that's probably fair. I'll still give him 1 because I think Bam will come back in Game 3 at least.
Even with injury, even if they were fully healthy, I say they get swept. So
I think the Heat are gonna lose in 5 because I think for some reason the Lakers always win in 5. But yeah, that series is not that great. It was one of the lowest viewed finals in a long time since I think LeBron's first finals, where everyone knew he was going to lose that one because he was playing the Spurs.
Yeah,
and that's pretty crazy. I mean, granted, they're competing with football and other sports, baseball playoffs and everything, but yeah, it's not looking so good for NBA ratings right now.
It's a weird year. I don't know.
I think more people would have watched actually if we made it because people want to see that.
Yeah.
But
people would have been excited for us.
And they would have been like, oh, anything could happen because you don't know with those teams, but you just know LeBron and AD are going to take this. So it's unfortunate. It could have been us, but maybe next year. But now we'll get into our season review. We're going to talk about the players, how they did during the regular season, the playoffs. We won't be talking about a couple players, though. Those players are Vlatko, because he never played, but he got fucking ripped.
He is jacked, we will say that.
A+ for transformation, because I don't know where the fuck that happened.
It's crazy. Just go on his Instagram. It
he
is
looks
ridiculous.
insane. I swear he took steroids.
He might have.
He definitely should have got drug tested.
He looks like a fucking superhero now.
He looks
He's
like
so
Arnold
jacked.
Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
He looks insane. A+ to him for transformation, but we won't talk about him because he never plays. Keita Bates-Diop got traded to us right when the season basically got canceled. He played a little bit in those bubble games, but I liked what I saw, but not enough to give him anything for that. He's also a second-year player, and I don't see him with us for the prolonged future.
The only way that we will see a lot of Vlatko on the Nuggets ever is, knock on wood, if Jeremy Grant doesn't resign.
Yeah, and a lot of injuries, too.
Yeah.
And then we also won't talk about Noah Vonleh because he's gone after this year. He's a free agent.
Yeah.
He's just basically there to fill in the cap space for the trade and also release some cap space this summer. And we won't be talking about Troy Daniels either because he was just a bubble sign-on. And lastly, we won't talk about Bol Bol because even though we love Bol Bol and we love what we saw in those preseason games in the bubble, they were preseason games in the bubble. Yeah. We didn't see him in any real minutes other than scrub time.
He is the big unknown of next season.
Yeah,
so.
Potential A+, but we can't grade his play because he played in meaningless games that don't matter. So, but we can grade PJ Dozier, who did play pretty significant minutes, in the regular season when Jamal went out with his injury, so he became the backup point guard. We had to call him up from G League. And then even in the playoffs, he played some significant minutes. In the Clippers series, he played some good defense. Lakers series played some good defense.
Yeah.
His season average was 5.8 points, 2.2 assists, 1.9 rebounds, 0.9 turnovers. In playoffs, it went down because obviously he got less minutes.
Yeah.
3.2 points, 1 assist, 1.5 rebounds, 0.7 turnovers. So with that, what do you give him for his overall season, how he did?
You know what? Considering his role and the way he's playing, and the way he played, I'm going to give him an A. I think he played very well, and he kind of showed us exactly what you want to see from someone who could potentially, and let's be honest, will likely be our backup point guard within the next 2 years.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of good. He's huge. He's good.
Ginormous.
He's a good defender. He's a really smart basketball player. He's not a very good shooter, but I'm hoping that'll get better. It got better for Monte, so I could see it getting better for him.
Yeah. I give him just because for his role, but also I didn't see a lot out of him as much as I wanted, minutes wise. I think he has a really good potential to become our backup point guard. For that, I would give him an A. But for just how he did this season, I give him a C+ because he was good, but he wasn't anything special. But he was good. I think the things he can improve on are obviously decision making because he's going to have to be a backup point guard, and also whether that's in trying to get assists or trying to know when to score. I think he's obviously a score first point guard, which is his biggest difference with Monte. But I think for overall what he did in the playoffs and in the regular season, C+ for him because he didn't do bad, but he didn't do anything, obviously kind of amazing.
I think his defense has some really good potential too.
Yeah, his defense was really good. When he came in, I think it was that Laker game. I think it was the game 2 we lost. He came in and he made a difference to even put us in that lead. But obviously, Mason Plumlee blew it.
And PJ in that game, I will say he missed like 4 free throws.
Yeah, so I mean that's an issue with this whole team, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then so that's for PJ. Next, we'll go on to the next guy on the bench who plays significant minutes, Torrey Craig. Torrey had 5.4 points in the regular season, 0.8 assists, 3.3 rebounds, 0.4 turnovers. Playoffs, he went to 4.5 points, 0.7 assists, 3.3 rebounds still, and then 0.5 turnovers. Same consistency. He's the same. He had less points, but he had less minutes. He was also guarding more people. What is your rating for Torrey and how he did?
So that is like what you said right there is like the epitome of what I see Torrey Craig is. He is who he is, and you can't expect much from him.
Yeah.
He got torched by Donovan Mitchell. He got absolutely torched. I'm going to give Torrey Craig a C because that's exactly what he is to me. He is just average.
Yeah.
And he in below average at shooting. So I'm going to give him a C. I'm glad he was on the team. We definitely needed him, especially while Gary Harris was out.
Yeah.
I imagine that this next season will be his last season on the Nuggets. But
I mean, he's a free agent this season.
Isn't he restricted though?
Yeah, he's restricted. Okay. So we could keep him, but if we don't want to match whatever he gets offered, we don't.
Okay, so this could be the last.
This should have been his last season. I think he did an Instagram post that kind of hinted to like it could be his last season because he said, "Thank you, Denver. Thanks to the organization, all this." Hopefully, I think he wants to stay, but obviously it depends on other things going on with free agency, mainly Jeremy, and then other free agents we could get. Also, what his value is on the market. Is a bad team willing to give him a lot of money just to do his role of defense, which is possible.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, Torrey, he's also 29, about to be 30, so that probably hurts his value as well, and I think he knows that.
For sure.
I gave him same kind of as you. I just gave him a C+ because he was very beneficial when Barn got hurt and Gary gets hurt. He's a very good backup to start. You know what to expect from him. You expect the defense. You expect a couple buckets here and there, and you expect effort. So that's why I give him a C+. It's not much really else to say about Torrey. He is, like you said, he is what he is. He's 30 years old. He's not really going to improve from this point on. No. If anything, he's only going to go downhill. He's going to have a good couple of years, but then after that, he can go downhill. If we did re-sign him, I would only want to re-sign him for about 2 years on a very minimum scale contract. But I would like to bring Torrey back because if you went into this thing about, let's say we could re-sign Torrey, we know what we're getting, or we could re-sign this other guy for more money, but it's a 50-50 chance that he's going to be either really good or a bust in that role.
Who are you talking about?
Just like
just anybody?
Yeah, but let's say he could be really good or he's going to be a bust. It's a 50-50. I'd rather go with Torrey.
Yeah, I mean, Torrey's cheaper, and like you said, we know what we're getting from him. So,
and he fits in the system. He knows the system. He has no ego. It's great. He's perfect for the team, but, it might be his last run with us, which is unfortunate if that's the case. Now on to the next guy, we'll talk about Plumlee. And Jesus Christ. So Plumlee in the regular season averaged 7.2 points, 2.5 assists, 5.2 rebounds, 1.3 turnovers. In the playoffs, he went to 2.4 points, 1.3 assists, 3.2 rebounds, and 0.6 turnovers. Granted, he played a lot less minutes, but Jesus Christ. What are your thoughts on Mason Plumlee?
This one's really tough. Okay, so Plumlee, I would say that the regular season, this was Plumlee's. He had a pretty good season this year. Decent for Plumlee, for what we've seen from him. That being said, everybody knows how we feel about him. He is an offensive liability, and
I think everyone saw it in the playoffs.
Yeah,
and especially in that Lakers series. Exactly. Anytime he came in, they went on a 10-row run.
Yeah, and then it also shows, especially with his dumbass guarding of Anthony Davis, he is also not.
He also did that against Kuzma in the bubble game.
Exactly.
Up, and Kuzma got
He is not as good a defender as everybody says. Now, as far as a grade goes, I'm trying not to be really mean.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give him a D+.
That's what I gave him. I also gave him a D+, because I think for what he does, he's not a bad backup center, but for how much we're paying him, D+.
Yeah, seriously.
He's getting $10 million to do nothing out there.
I don't care if we give him the veteran minimum. I do not want him back.
I don't want him back either. I'd rather get younger at the position and more athletic. I think he's a little bit overrated, and I think someone's going to pay him a lot of money because for some reason he's very well loved throughout the league.
Yeah.
And I don't know know why.
Everybody's like, wow, Mason Plumlee, he's
good.
really helping the Nuggets out right now. It's
Look at his averages. They were bad. He's averaging 5.2 rebounds off of the bench. That's bad.
Yeah.
For a backup center, I want at least like 6 or 7.
Especially for the minutes he got.
Yeah, because he played a lot of minutes. Because Jokic didn't play that many minutes in the regular season. He took a lot of time off, especially if we were killing it in games.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
D+. For
sure.
I don't like Mason Plumlee. He gets the plus because he's not terrible.
Yep.
But he's terrible for what we need him to be for how much we're fucking paying him. So, bad. And I think everyone now agrees with us. I think he finally got exposed in this playoffs to all Nuggets fans.
He got exposed.
Next one. This is a more fun one to talk about. MPJ. So, I don't know if this counts his bubble games and his regular season stats. I don't think it did. But obviously in the bubble...
I think it did.
I don't know because I got these from NBA, but I'll read them off.
Okay.
In the regular season, he averaged 9.3 points, 0.8 assists, 4.7 rebounds, 0.9 turnovers. In the playoffs, he went up to 11.4 points, still 0.8 assists, 6.7 rebounds, and 1.3 turnovers. Again, I don't know if the regular season counts as bubble games, but we all know he was averaging like 28 points per game in the bubble games. He had kind of an explosion, then people started to scout him. But with that being said, what are your grade for MPJ and the season he had? Very up and down season.
It was an up and down season. So as a player overall, his season for me is a C+. But I'm gonna give him a B-, because let's just point out the elephant in the room. He is such a horrible defender. It's kind of ridiculous.
Defender. LeBron made a point to get him on him every single time.
But at the same time, he has the length to become a decent defender, so I'm sure he'll improve.
He showed flashes of good defense.
Yeah, and when he's confident, he is a bucket.
Yep.
And he showed his potential, and he showed why everybody said that. Why Connolly basically said that he is untouchable, and he probably will be from this day forward. So I'm gonna give him a B-. I liked what I saw. I saw enough to say that I want him to be our starting small forward next year.
Yeah, I also gave him B- because I think if we did it right when the season ended, would have gave him like a C.
Yeah.
But with seeing what he did in the bubble in the playoffs, it went up to a B- because he improved a little bit defensively, not a lot.
Yeah.
He definitely improved offensively. He started making the buckets that the people were saying he was making in practice. He started cutting a little bit more. I think his biggest issues right now are he's not an adept passer. He's score first only, and I think he needs to get better at finding people for open shots off of what he creates, because he creates a lot of open lanes for people.
He creates a lot of attention.
But he's like, no, fuck that. I'm going to shoot it.
Yeah.
There's a lot. That's one thing for him. Obviously, defense, he's got to get better, but I think with time, that will come. Same thing with Jamal, as we saw in this playoffs. Yeah. He'll just get to a point where at least he's not getting blown by every play. And I think the last thing's obviously mentality. He has to mature a little bit. He has to get a little bit better about off-court and on-court maturity. And I think that will come. He basically, in his exit interview after we lost Game 5, he said he knows he has a lot more things to do to become a complete player, and he's going to work on it. And I believe it because he literally just lives and breathes basketball.
Yeah, I don't think he does anything else except for basketball.
He plays basketball and he parties with Monte Morris. That's all he does.
Exactly.
Good for him. I think he's going to get better as he comes, but I think definitely B-. But at least he improved from what I was going to originally give him, which was a C. Next guy, Monte Morris. He had 9 points, 3.5 assists, 1.9 rebounds, 0.7 turnovers in regular season. Playoffs, 9.1 points, 2.7 assists, 1.5 rebounds, 0.5 turnovers. So again, the model of consistency is this man.
This one's an A for me. I love Monte Morris. I think he is like the perfect backup point guard for this team. It sucks because he's really good, so he's probably not going to stay much longer. We're probably going to trade him. I would guess.
Yeah.
I love Monte. I'm going to miss him when he's gone.
Yeah. I gave him an A- just because it wasn't good enough to be an A just because he didn't make a huge improvement in the playoffs.
For sure.
I would have gave him an A or A+ if he made an improvement in the playoffs. He had a couple good games towards the end, but he was pretty, he's consistent, but he never went above what I think he could do. But I mean, you love him for his consistency.
Exactly.
But also, he's in the A range because when Jamal got hurt in the regular season, he kept us majorly afloat in the standings.
Absolutely.
He was starting. He was a great starter. He ran the team efficiently well. He just played his role. He didn't try to do what Jamal was doing. He just did what Monte does. And I love that with Monte. As Phil said, Monte is going to be looking for an extension this summer. We're probably not going to give him an extension this summer because we won't be able to really afford him, because I'm assuming he's going to want a lot of money because he's basically a starter that's on our bench. And then also, if he got into the free agency the next year, we'd probably lose him for nothing. So I'm assuming the Nuggets are probably going to trade him because we don't want to go into the luxury tax. In the hard luxury tax, we're already in the soft one, but we don't want to go in the hard luxury tax because I don't think Kroenke wants to pay that.
Yeah, definitely.
And we have to pay Jeremy. So I assume that we're going to trade him either at the draft or at the trade deadline at some point. But who knows when it will be, but I'm assuming just like Malik was this year, just like Nurkic was a couple years ago, we're just going to have to get rid of a good talent because we can't afford them.
Yeah,
so
we're just too deep.
We're too deep. We are too good at drafting people. And I think that's the thing that a lot of teams and people in the who watch NBA do not understand is like this team has so much more talent that we have to get rid of.
Yeah.
Next one, last guy off the bench, definitely the sixth man. Jeremy Grant, in the regular season, he had 12 points, 1.2 assists, 3.5 rebounds, 0.9 turnovers. Playoffs, 11.6 points, 1.3 assists, 3.3 rebounds, 1.3 turnovers. So based on the stats, you would think he got worse in the playoffs.
But he definitely got better.
But, I mean, he had to guard Kawhi Leonard and LeBron James for 2 straight series.
I honestly, I love Jeremy in the playoffs. So.
Yeah. What would you give him? Because I think it's a pretty easy grade.
Yeah, I think it's an A.
I give him A plus.
Yeah,
out of this one.
A plus is fair too. He was great. He's exactly what we wanted when we gave a first round pickup for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an A plus. I hope to God we re-sign him.
Yes, I hope to God we re-sign him too because he was great. He definitely proved he could be the power forward of the future. He's averaging amazing points. He shot went kind of away in the Clippers series and then started to kind of make its way back in the Lakers series, but he was shooting amazingly well in the Utah series. He was shooting like 40% from 3. Mm-hmm. If he gets consistently with that and he's around like 38 to 40%, that's great. I don't blame him for losing his shot. I assume he was extremely tired in the Clippers series because he had to guard Kawhi Leonard and he did an exceptional job. And that's why I give him an A plus because I think we realized that he has a lot higher of a potential than we thought he did.
Yeah.
He can become one of the top defenders on our team. And I didn't even think of that when we traded for him and when I watched him during the regular season. Once watching him in the playoffs, I was like, wow, he's actually a lot better at defense than I thought he was. And I think that's just because he got the opportunity to start. And yes, he was a starting small forward, but if he came back, he'd be a starting power forward. I think every Nuggets fan wants to re-sign him, and hopefully we do. I know the Mavericks are interested, the Lakers are interested, but apparently it said that he prefers to stay in Denver. The value would be around $14 to $16 million, which to me is perfect. If we give him $15 million for 3 years, totally fine with that.
Yeah,
it's a great
deal.
And then, think of it. Instead of getting $10 million to Plumlee, you're giving $50 million to Jeremy Grant. It's way better.
Yeah, I will be very happy the day that he signs.
Hopefully, yes. Knock on wood.
wood.
Next person. Now we're moving into the starters. First starter we're going to talk about is the worst of the starters, in my opinion. We'll talk about Paul Millsap.
Yeah.
He had 11.6 points in the regular season, 1.6 assists, 5.7 rebounds, 1.4 turnovers. He was also averaging 43% from 3 in the regular season. And then in the playoffs, he went to 8 points, 1.2 assists, 4.7 rebounds to 1.3 turnovers. And then he went down to 34% from 3 in the playoffs. What would you give Paul Millsap's grade overall for the season?
I'm going to give him a solid B. Paul Millsap is old, and I think everybody knows that, and he's not going to be on the team next year. But we also don't beat Utah without him. We don't beat the Clippers without him. Mm-hmm. And we needed him in the regular season for sure. He helped this young team kind of go on their way to becoming contenders, to be honestly. And so I'm going to give him, even though that's obviously not like a season grade, I'm going to give him that credit. So I'm giving him a B.
Yeah. I give him a D+. And I know that's kind of harsh.
That is pretty harsh.
But for how much we were playing him and how he just went away in the playoffs.
He did. He was a non-factor.
One game against the Clippers when Marcus Morris got in his face, he was a non-factor. And there was a lot of times where he had a smaller guy on him. And I'm like, you should be able to score this for how much we were paying you. Mm-hmm. Granted, like you said, he got old. If I'm giving Paul Millsap's whole tenure here, I give it an A.
Yeah.
He changed the dynamic of the defense. He led these guys to become what they are today with his veteran leadership. He showed that we can sign an aging free agent, which is nice. He's still the best free agent Denver has ever gone in a long time. I think his tenure here was great, but I think his time has definitely come to an end for how much he's getting paid. I don't know if he'd be willing to take a bench role, but I don't even think I would want him for a bench role at this point because I would like it. Like I said earlier with Plumlee, I'd like to get younger and more athletic at that position.
I would like to draft a power forward with our first round pick this year.
So. I'd like to draft a power forward, and if not, sign a guy who's kind of a mid-tier veteran, but he's not like old. He's just like, he's not a great guy. Like, he's not an exceptional player. He's a bench role guy. He knows what his role is, but he's like tough and he knows what he's doing. That would be the best thing. But I would also like to draft a guy in this role and hopefully let them play it out. And also, you can let MPJ play the 4 at certain times too next year. And I think that would be a good decision to let MPJ play the 4. I think he'd be a great stretch 4 for us. So that's why I give him a D+. Love Paul Millsap, but I think he's gone.
Yeah.
I hear rumors that he might go to the Heat. He could definitely go to the Lakers if he's trying to ring chase. He could go to a shitty team and get one last big deal if he wanted to do that. He has a lot of options, but I don't think Denver is one of them anymore.
His time's run out here, to be honest.
But great tenure for us.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people
I love Paul.
Underrate what he did for this team.
For sure.
Next player, who was, I say, the second worst player of the starters, is Gary Harris. 10.4 points, 2.1 assists, 2.9 rebounds, 1.1 turnover in the regular season. Playoffs, 7.4, 1.7, 2 rebounds, 1.5 turnovers. What would you give his overall season for Gary Harris?
Gary Harris proved in the playoffs that he is the defense.
He is the defense.
That being said, I'm going to give him a C+. He had a really bad regular season.
He had a terrible regular season.
He was a non-factor offensively. Even in the bubble, he was pretty much a non-factor offensively.
Yeah. He had a couple good games.
He had some good games here and there, but he was a great defender, but his shot has just left him. Yeah. I don't know what happened. I hope he gets it back, but I'm not optimistic. But I love Gary. We would have lost in 5 to the Jazz if we didn't have him.
Gary back, yeah.
So yeah, I love Gary. I'll give him a C+. We don't make it to the Western Conference Finals without him.
True. And I love Gary Harris more than anyone else. I think that's very well known on this podcast. But at the same time, he had a terrible regular season. His shot's gone, like Phil said. He doesn't know how to make a layup anymore. He used to make insane layups. I don't know what happened. He does play great defense. He is the defense of this team. And for that's why he's a C- and on the Ds. Because he's getting paid a lot of fucking money.
Yeah, he is getting paid a lot of money. I haven't really taken the contracts into account at all.
I just take it because I'm like, it's a contract season time now. Yeah, you got to think about this stuff.
He's overpaid.
He's overpaid. We paid him because we thought he was going to be one of the best two-way players in the league. Right now, he's just basically a 3-and-D guy, and the 3 is very iffy. So that's why I give him a C- just because he is our defense. Because when he comes in, he makes a huge difference. Him and Jeremy being the head of a defense is very good. I would be willing to trade Gary Harris this offseason, maybe packaging him with Morris to get better at that position. Mm-hmm. People have said Drew Holiday. I don't want Victor Oladipo. I know people have said that. He's too injury prone to risk that. That's not a good one. Drew Holiday's the only one I would really want to replace Gary Harris. But that's something we can talk about on a podcast down the line. But yeah, I give Gary Harris a C-. I think he just needs to find a shot, and then he could go right back up to like a C+ to a B-.
He had a season where he averaged 19 points a game.
Yeah, like we know he can score. I don't know what happened to him ever since he got these nagging injuries. He's been doing worse and worse every year.
I'm sorry, it was 18, but still.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just it. If you look at his trajectory from 3 years ago, every year it's gone down, and that's not good. Especially since we gave him a contract after he had 18 points. So it's like, come on, man. So yeah, he got a C minus. Next person did not play in the playoffs, but he did play in the regular season. Will Barton, he averaged 15 points in the regular season, 3.7 assists, 6.3 rebounds, and 1.5 turnovers. Granted, he did not play in the playoffs because he was hurt. He left the bubble.
He played like one quarter in the bubble.
Played like one quarter. Then was gone forever. What would you give Will Barton, though, for what he did during the regular season?
Will Barton has best season as a Nugget, probably, I'd say. I don't
really, top seasons.
Yeah, I don't remember his early seasons very well, to be honest. But
definitely his best season as a starter.
Yeah, sure. Definitely. And I was a big Will Barton hater, and he really helped this team. That being said, the playoffs also showed that we don't need him.
We don't. It would be nice to have him.
It will be nice if he comes off the bench next season, which I'm expecting him to, so that'll be good. I would obviously. I'm not saying I wouldn't want him, but yeah, I'm gonna give Will Barton. I'll give him a B.
That's what I gave him.
He Will Barton really grinded my gears, especially last season. Oh my god! And so. I was really down on him, and I wanted him off the team. Like, the only player I hated more than him was Plumlee. And then he became one of my favorite players. I really liked Will Barton this season.
He was good. No, I mean, he was definitely our third option throughout the regular season. He was more consistent than he's ever been. It's always Will the Thrill or just Will Barton. Mm-hmm. This time it was mainly Will the Thrill for most of the season. He was pretty good. He was pretty consistent. That's why I give him a B, because huge improvement over the last season. Like we talked about the last season, he was terrible. People booed him in Pepsi Center. They wanted him off to the team. He came back. He used that as motivation. He became, good. He became a solid starter, like I said, a solid third option. The only reason I give him a B and not an A minus or a B plus is because I didn't see anything in the playoffs, and that's not, to him. He just got hurt.
Yeah, that was 7 months ago when we actually saw him play consistently.
Yeah, and that's when it matters, and that's when you want to see him playing well. Yeah. I don't care if you play well in the regular season. Good job. That's great. But I care about playoffs now. We are a playoff contending, championship contending team. Playoffs are what matter. We didn't see him there, so that's why he can only get a B in my eyes. Mm-hmm. If we just went off regular season and not considering all of that, I would say like A minus, B plus. But, B is pretty good for him.
Yeah,
I like him. Like you said, I think he'll be a great sixth man. He's going to be an expensive sixth man, but I think he's going to be a great sixth man next year. And he'll be very good in that role, leading the bench unit, especially because he's going to have to turn into a pseudo point guard when Monte gets traded.
Which he has experience doing. So,
so when Monte gets traded, he's going to have to turn into that point guard of the bench, which hopefully he can do. And then now the last two guys, the best guys. This one's insane. So Jamal went from 18.5 points, 4.8 assists, 4 rebounds, and 2.2 turnovers, and shooting 34% from three to 26.5 points, 6.6 assists, 4.8 rebounds, 2.8 turnovers, and shooting 45% from three. So
that is insane.
The most crazy jump of the team by far. What would you give Jamal?
I love Jamal Murray. I'm gonna give him an A plus. He has still struggled with consistency in the regular season, but I feel like I knew what we had in Jamal Murray. Yeah. I didn't think he was gonna pop off the way he did in the playoffs.
That was insane.
But I'm glad he did. I'm giving him an A plus. I think he's a star, and he's probably a superstar. He's getting close.
Yep.
He plays like this the first 20 games of the next season. No one's going to say he's not a superstar. He just needs to average like 23, and people will say he's a superstar.
Yep.
A plus. Without him, he was at times he was the best. He was the team. Yeah, he was the team at times. He was the team against the Jazz. I'm not going to say he's our best player.
No.
Not even close.
Not even close. It's still
which
by a ton.
We will also get to, but Yeah, A+. I love Jamal. I'm so glad he's on this team.
I love him as well. If we ended it right when the season ended, let's say
Yeah.
we never came back, I would have gave him a C+, because he was doing fucking awful.
Yeah.
Not that he was doing bad, but he was just doing what old Jamal was doing, and he wasn't being consistent, and he was getting 18 points, and you're like, you're definitely a 20-point per game guy, at least. And I was like, why are you shooting your threes so poorly? Like, I like your sister up, but what the hell's going on? Come on, you're better than this. Like, we're paying you to be better than this next year. And a lot of people were on his case, and they were like, oh, he didn't deserve the extension and shit like that. Then he gains weight during quarantine, and he becomes a monster. All he needed to do was add 10 more pounds, apparently, because he became a monster. Those are insane stats. 26.5 points, 6.6 assists from the guy who doesn't really pass that much. That's crazy. And 4.8 rebounds. Very underrated rebounder for his size. A+, 100% A+. This guy is he's a star. He's definitely an all-star if he plays like this. He's definitely can be a superstar if he has like more 40 plus, 50 plus games, which I definitely see in his future.
Me too.
But the thing is now, you gotta prove it.
Yeah.
If you come in next season and you're not at least averaging 22 points, and that's my minimum for you, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
You better be averaging 22 points per game next year.
People are just going to just say that he was a fluke if he doesn't come in and show that he's here to stay. Like, I hope and think he is, but he needs to do it now.
Yeah. Like, I want to see, like, consistently he's getting 20 points a game, and then every now and again he's popping off for, like, a 30 or a 40, maybe even a 50. Like, I want to see that now. You've shown that you can do it. I want to see it in the regular season. And I want to see this team, like, trying in the regular season. I don't want to see them taking any nights off, too.
Yep, exactly.
But A+ to Jamal. We love you a lot.
Yep.
Next guy, best guy, obviously, the GOAT. We got Jokic. So in the regular season, he was 19.9 points, 7 assists, 9.7 rebounds, 3.1 turnovers, averaging 31% from 3. In the playoffs, he goes to 24.4 points, 5.7 assists, 9.8 rebounds, 3.3 turnovers, and then averaging 50% from 3, which is crazy. Yeah. What would you give Jokic?
A+.
Yeah, obviously. He's an A+ all the way through.
I think somehow the bubble made people underrate Jokic. And I think it's because
Jamal just popped
I think it's because
off.
of Jamal.
And he's more flashy, and people like seeing flashy
A lot of people were like, Jamal became the poster boy of our team, which is fine. But a lot of people like legitimately thought that Jamal was the best player on this team. It's not even close.
Yeah, I think the NBA likes to market guys, and they know that it's easier to market Jamal than big boy Jokic.
Exactly.
Like, it's not easy to advertise Jokic.
But also on that, which is weird, is that Jokic cracked the top 15 for jersey sales in the bubble, and Jamal was not even in the top 20.
But then again, I think that's just because, like, who's buying most of those jerseys? People in Denver,
well,
so they know.
Yeah, exactly. But
like, and Serbians too.
Yeah, it's true. Serbians probably helped boosted his numbers, but I think Jokic is a top 10 player in the league. I don't think it's even close to a debate. I think he's closer to top 5 than he is to 10.
Yeah. He's definitely the best center now without a debate.
He's the best center. The only big man better than him is Anthony Davis. And
he's not a center.
And he's not a center. So he's
power forward.
Yeah.
He prefers to play power forward. That's what he always says.
He's a power forward, and he plays power forward on the Lakers. They always start Dwight Howard next to him.
Or McGee. Yeah.
Or McGee. So yeah, he's great. I love him so much. He's lost weight. He's not a big chubby guy, but he will always be my big chubby guy.
Yeah,
so
he's still a big chubby guy. He's never not a big chubby guy. But I mean, I love Jokic. He got better. His 3-point shot got insanely better.
That was really fun to see.
He was making it 50% of the time. He didn't shoot a lot in the Lakers series, which I told everyone and I expected it to see, because Anthony Davis is the only guy who can guard Jokic's threes on that high pick and roll. And I said that on the podcast. I was like, he's going to have a trouble with that. So that's why he didn't shoot as many in that series. But like in the Clippers series, boy, was draining threes.
No one on the Clippers can guard him.
And in the Jazz series, he was draining threes towards the end when we were making our comeback. Like, I love Nikola Jokic. One issue is his turnovers pretty high. Like 3.3, 3.1. I would like to get that down near 2. Next season. I think a lot of it's he tries to do too much fancy stuff.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it too is like he rushes some stuff because he gets doubled, and he was getting used to getting doubled and stuff like this. So I think that's one of his issues. Another one of his issues that we saw very much in the Lakers series, he needs to be more disciplined on defense. And I'm not saying like be a better defender. I'm saying please don't foul.
Yeah, stop fouling.
Stop fouling. Every time you foul and you get 3 fouls in the second quarter, we're going to lose.
Yep.
We can't not have you on the court. There was someone who posted like, why is Jokic playing 28 minutes in the closeout game? It was the game 5. I'm like, he had 3 fouls in the first 2 quarters, and then he had 4 in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Like, we couldn't play him.
It's a bummer.
I think he just needs to get more disciplined and not fouling athletic people. That will always be his biggest issue as athletic big men. That's why Capella always kicked our ass. It's why Anthony Davis is going to kick our ass. But A+ for him. And overall for the team, A+. This was a great year.
Yeah.
A+ for the team.
So proud of this team. A+ for sure.
A+ to Malone.
A+ to Malone, 100%.
A+ to Conley.
Yep.
A+ to all of them. It's going to be great. I love this team so much.
Yep. I'm so excited. No one is even close to their prime. Jokic isn't even close to his prime, in my opinion.
Yep. Some of those guys are closer to primes. Your primes also last longer than they used to because of medicine and technology, so that's great. This team has a very bright future. MPJ wasn't even good yet, and we did as good as we did. We didn't even have our third option in Will Barton playing. This team has a lot to be happy about. Granted, there's a lot of questions this offseason.
Yeah.
Biggest one, Jeremy Grant.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
hope we re-sign you. We'll come back in a podcast, and we'll talk about our biggest priorities for the offseason. What we would want to see happen in the offseason, things like that. But I think first we need to let the season end and then get a timeline for when things are.
Yeah, we don't know when free agency is going to be or anything like that.
The season is looking like they're leaning towards starting in January, but no one knows for sure. If that is the case, though, then I would assume free agency would be sometime in November, and the draft would be like also sometime in November. But again, we have no clue. But if that is the case, that would be a really quick pickup for these guys who played a lot. But we'll just see. We'll see when it comes back. We'll see what happens. But overall, love this team.
Yep.
Love everything they did.
So great.
Great season. Unfortunate the way it ended, but as long as we lost the best player in the world, can't be upset.
As far as I'm concerned, the Nuggets are the second best team in the NBA. So
yeah, I would agree with that standpoint right now, especially since Doc Rivers is now not with the Clippers. They don't know their coach. He's with the Sixers now. There's a lot of variables. D'Antoni's not with the Rockets anymore. Portland's only going to get worse, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Utah, they can get better if Donovan gets better, but who knows what goes on with their team. Dallas is definitely a concern.
Dallas is a concern for sure.
They have cap space. They have Luka. They have Porzingis. But I think overall, we are the second best team in the league at this point. But obviously, a lot of things can change with free agency. Hopefully, we don't get hurt by free agency. The one biggest issue is the Lakers are definitely going to get better in free agency. We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the season. It was great. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys next time.
Go Nuggets.